This month, we're asking for your support through our premium programs via the Escapist Plus and YouTube memberships. Your support allows us to continue making the content we want instead of chasing algorithms or the latest trends. Plus, you get a bunch of perks like ad-free viewing via the Escapist Plus on our main website, early access on YouTube via YouTube memberships, and bonus content like our monthly Ask the Creators video series where we answer your burning questions. Thanks in advance for your continued support. It genuinely means the world to us. Back when we started In the Frame, I made the point that this wasn't going to be a review series. After all, we have 3-minute reviews for that. However, this week we're going to be talking about Emerald Fennell's Promising Young Woman. And, if you haven't seen it yet, we'll be discussing the movie in depth and with spoilers. So, if you haven't seen it, you might want to watch it first. And you should. It's the best film that I've seen in a long time. It was one of the best films that I saw last year, and the rare film that gets an unqualified recommendation from me. Think of it as a little Darren seal of approval. With that in mind, let's jump right on in. There's a startling moment early in Promising Young Woman. It's even featured in the trailers. An executive out at a sleazy nightclub takes a drunken woman home. He plies her with drink, throws her on the bed, and starts to undress her. She weakly protests, but he doesn't stop. Then she opens her eyes. But she doesn't look at him. She looks at the camera. She looks at us. Promising Young Woman is fascinated by the idea of looking and watching and seeing. It's notable, for example, how much time characters spend looking at television, or phones, or computers. Indeed, the film suggests that Cassie has weaponized the act of looking, and the way in which looking makes people uncomfortable. It's notable that, like most characters named Cassandra, Cassie's name seems to be an allusion to the Greek mythological figure cursed with vision, but tragically condemned to be ignored. The more you know. Crucially though, it isn't just Cassie who looks. Promising Young Woman is also consciously aware of how the audience is looking at it. It's notable that director Emerald Fennell and cinematographer Benjamin Carsoon tend to favour static and symmetrical compositions, with characters at the centre of the frame and often positioned as if staring down the camera. Consider how Fennell follows that shot of Cassie breaking the fourth wall on the bed, with shots of Cassie and Jerry both staring at one another, but through the camera. This self-awareness is reflected in the casting, where it seems like every single actor has been chosen with an eye to how the audience will see them. The film is populated with nice guy television actors playing against type as opportunistic predators, like Adam Brody from The OC, Chris Lowell from Glow, and Sam Richardson from Veep.
I'm a gentleman.
You might be surprised to hear that gentlemen are sometimes the worst.
In each case, the audience is asked to consider how they see the actor and how they contextualize their previous roles. Although, admittedly, the fedora does do a lot of heavy lifting for Richardson.
I admit the fedora was unforgivable.
Other actors also play off the baggage that they bring. Christopher Mintz-Plasse doesn't seem quite as harmless as he did playing McLovin, while Clancy Brown plays a sensitive and sweet role miles removed from his established tough guy screen persona. Bo Burnham is simultaneously wholesome and unsettling as Cassie's potential love interest Ryan, playing off Burnham's background as a breakout Vine star with some controversial material in his history.
Cause Helen Keller was the perfect woman. I was the finishing touch. She was the perfect woman cause she didn't talk so much.
I don't want to look at that, Cassie.
It's hard to watch Alfred Molina begging for Carey Mulligan's absolution without recalling a similar sequence in An Education. Promising Young Woman is very aware of how audiences will watch it. The plot suggests a twist on the familiar rape, revenge, exploitation genre. Over the film's first act, the audience discovers that Cassie's best friend Nina was sexually assaulted at college, but that no action was taken against the rapist. Nina and Cassie both dropped out, and Nina took her own life shortly thereafter. The film signposts this backstory with its own title, a none too subtle allusion to the infamous Brock Turner case. Cassie seems to want retribution, and sets plans in motion. Audiences understand how these films work. The rape revenge genre has been a staple since the 70s, typified by films like I Spit on Your Grave, Death Wish, and Straw Dogs. It continues through to more modern films like Taken. Initially, Promising Young Woman looks like it's going to be a feminist reworking of the genre, recalling more modern takes like Neil Jordan's The Brave One, or Coralie Farragut's Revenge. Fennell leans on this feminization of the genre with the film's texture. The film revels in combinations of virginal white and blood red. There's a candy coating to the film, with its emphasis on pastels at the coffee shop where Cassie works, and kitsch at the home that she shares. The soundtrack leans heavily into feminine pop. However, there's also a razor-sharp bite to the film. Knowing what the audience expects, Promising Young Woman repeatedly pushes back against it. At several points, the film suggests that Cassie might have done something horrific, perhaps murdering a man who tried to assault her, perhaps arranging for the sexual assault of an old friend who refused to believe Nina, perhaps kidnapping the daughter of the college official who refused to pursue the investigation. In each case, the film lets the ambiguity linger for a few minutes, as if to ask the audience what they want from this and what they might be comfortable with. Ultimately, in each case, Cassie does nothing.
Do you really think I would do something like that?
That's because Promising Young Woman is not a rape revenge story. Instead, in keeping with the name Cassandra, Promising Young Woman is a tragedy. The film signals this in its visual language. The film repeatedly presents Cassie as small and imbalanced in the frame when she feels emotional and vulnerable, most notably in contrast to Bo Burnham as Ryan. Even beyond that, Fennell returns time and again to religious iconography. Cassie is constantly framed in crucifix poses, or with background objects suggesting halos or wings. Promising Young Woman is not a story about retribution, but instead about penitence.
I forgive you.
Cassie cannot forgive herself for what she sees as her failure to protect Nina, and is acting out in increasingly self-destructive ways.
I'm just trying to fix it. Come on, you can't.
Cassie is surrounded by people who love her and want her to recover, like her parents, or her boss, or even Nina's mother. However, Promising Young Woman suggests that there's no cultural framework for processing and working through trauma like that, so Cassie has fallen back on the language of the stereotypically masculine rape revenge narrative. The irony is that Cassie can never prosper in that narrative framework. At the climax of the film, she infiltrates the bachelor party being thrown for Nina's rapist by posing as a stripper. She handcuffs him to the bed, but he breaks free. He murders her impulsively. The narrative beats are familiar, recalling the old dead stripper genre.
You killed the stripper at your bachelor party? Was this the 90s?
Cassie's agency is completely stripped away in that moment, and it's notable that the audience doesn't see her face again. She's reduced to the anonymous victim typically featured in these sorts of movies. Films like Dance with Death, Very Bad Things, and Dead at 17. In those sorts of movies, Cassie can only ever be a victim, because, as Audre Lorde wrote, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. Cassie can never win playing by the rules set by the system that failed herself and Nina in the first place. Promising Young Woman understands that the movie cannot end there. It is structured to allow Cassie some small retribution at the end, even though it has to be delivered posthumously. Still, Promising Young Woman is a film that asks audiences to contemplate the stories that we tell ourselves, the narratives that we're comfortable with, and what happens when we become trapped within them. It asks us what we see, and through whose eyes we see it. Promising Young Woman meets the audience's gaze head-on in its introductory scenes, and it never blinks. I've been Darren Mooney, and this was In the Frame.